Welcome back, Raider Nation and my champions, and it's time to take a look at year 2 of Gruden 2.0. This video will be using the same format as my year 1 video. If you haven't taken a look at that one, I'll put a link in the description below. If you haven't seen that video, I go into much more detail in the 2018 season, but here's a summary if you haven't. Obviously, Jon Gruden came in, Chucky 2.0. Really didn't change much as far as the total win-losses. We actually lost a couple more games than we won the previous year under Jack Del Rio. Part of that I would feel is what I call our bargain bin free agency here. The big, quote-unquote, big names that we got in free agency were Jordy Nelson and Doug Martin. Both guys who made some noise in their career, but obviously past their prime. And then we traded for Martavis Bryant from the Pittsburgh Steelers, gave up a third-round pick for a guy who never reached 1,000 yards receiving in his career, had numerous violations of the league substance abuse policy, lasted about 8 games, went out with a knee injury, and then never came back to the Raiders nor the NFL due to violating the policy once again and being suspended indefinitely. And then the huge departures, obviously the Khalil Mack trade, the Amari Cooper trade, and then Mr. Reggie McKenzie here being dismissed in December. So it was out with McKenzie and in with Mayock. Now this guy had a 15-year tender basically as an analyst for NFL Network and a draft/player evaluator here. And also a good friend and buddy of Jon Gruden, especially when Gruden was in the booth. Spoke to him often, had a good relationship with him. And I put here, his timing is everything. He was hired exactly 3 weeks after Reggie McKenzie was fired, the day right after the last regular season game. Now, there's been talk that this was kind of in the works all along, and I probably believe it. I still hold to the belief that Jon Gruden's actually in charge, like most of the nation does, and he was brought in to better evaluate talent both in draft and free agency. As far as bringing in new talent, we opened up the pocketbook a little bit more this year than we did the previous offseason, highlighting with trying to improve our receiving core. We'll first go over Tyrell Williams here, who was a free agent from the Chargers. We gave him a 4-year, $44 million contract. And I just basically put ouch, off injured. When he was on the field, he was pretty good, but obviously not enough to warrant that kind of contract, to be honest with you. That kind of falls in line here with Trent Brown. And I talked about that in my Trent Brown video, the offensive line shakeup video, where basically we're kind of in flux. We drafted Colt Miller. He didn't do so well at left tackle. Donald Penn was departing, and we needed an upgrade there, obviously. I put fat, little play on words here. I think when he was on the field and motivated, yeah, he was more of the PH. But I think we got more of the F as time went on with him, and obviously it made sense to cut him. LaMarcus Joyner, same kind of thing. We gave him a $4 million deal. Didn't really live up to the hype that he had with the Rams. I call this one a big whiff, and he was subsequently cut as well. Another big one that was kind of relatively under the radar, kind of like the Dwayne Harris signing the last offseason we talked about, was Richie Incognito. This guy was basically back from retirement. He really wanted to play. Gave him a 1-year, $1 million kind of prove-it deal. He did pretty well. And it helped revamp the line and make some replacements on some of the subtractions I'll talk about later. And then we talk about this guy right here. Don't really want to go through all the nonsense, but basically we wasted more draft picks for a disgruntled Steeler wide receiver. And as Raider Nation knows, you probably know all about the story with his, clown feet and, frostbitten and all that nonsense. I don't want to waste any more time with that. Let's get to the draft. Cleveland Farrell, obviously a bit of a surprise. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but definitely not worth the 4th overall pick, especially when you see Devin White have a huge postseason for the Bucs last year. We could have got that guy. Obviously, linebacker was an issue of need as well for the Raiders at that time. Then we got Josh Jacobs, real solid guy. I wasn't so sure on him when we drafted him, but I mean, he kind of proved me wrong. I think he's kind of wore down a little bit as we went on the season, and we'll get to that when we look through the stats. But I really invigorated the offense. Uh, it's a player we really need to establish that run game, and it helps the offense in general. Jonathan Abram, I put wild. I think I love his style of play. I obviously needs to tone it down a bit between getting hurt himself and friendly fire incidents that we've seen, and penalties that just don't make any sense. He would have been great. I've mentioned this on social media. It would have been great during the Soul Patrol days, but the game's changed, so he needs to tone this down a bit, both for the penalties and health concerns. Trayvon Mullen's been kind of a mixed bag. Some good plays, some terrible plays. I'm hoping Gus Bradley can improve the secondary in general. A lot of young talent there. Max Crosby in the 4th round. Big shot in the arm for us. Had a huge rookie season. He declined a little bit last year, but he did have a torn labrum in his shoulders. He still played through that and a broken hand. So tough guy. And I'm gonna chalk that up to the injuries, not being able to produce as well as he did in his first season. Isaiah Johnson, I put this incomplete. I don't think we've seen enough of him to determine whether or not he should be on the roster. Hopefully Gus Bradley solves that problem as well. Foster Moreau, I put budding here. I think we're going to see a nice jump from him, especially with Witten retiring this year. And he's going to be a nice 1-2 combo with Darren Waller. Hunter Renfrow, obviously a diamond in the rough 5th rounder. 3rd and Renfrow, obviously. A guy in the slot who can make the plays, make the catches, take the hits. And then 7th rounder, Quentin Bell didn't really make the team. As far as subtractions, the offensive line, it really wasn't producing for us. So Donald Penn left, went to Washington. We traded KO to the Jets for a 5th round pick. Another good move here. We let Jared Cook go. He was a good player, but obviously I give kudos to Jon Gruden, basically poaching Waller off the Ravens practice squad. If you haven't heard that story, obviously I would say he's much better than Jared Cook ever was. So that's a plus in his column for that. And then Garyon Conley, former 1st round pick, a quote Reggie pick, and never really lived up to that 1st round billing, and honestly underperformed, was not happy at that point, and we sent him to Houston for a 3rd round pick. As far as injuries, obviously Jonathan Abram hurt his shoulder, busted his shoulder up on the first game against Denver. We know about that. Vontaze Burfict brought him over. Paul Guenther did from Cincy. Got suspended in the Colts game, I believe. Played 4 games. Saw the hit. Yeah, it was kind of bad, but I mean, suspended for the rest of this, kind of more of a lifetime achievement award from all the other times he's been suspended. And then our boy here, Trent, various injuries, hip, or knee, ankle, pectoral, you name it. It's kind of an off and on season for him. And then went on the IR later in the season. As far as the macro view, we're going to focus again, like we did in the last video, on the deltas. See what kind of improvement we made or regressions we've made from the previous season. So this is the 2nd season of Jon Gruden. Got 3 more wins, got an extra win in the division, so that's good. My takeaway with the offense, overall improved. Went down with the penalties, a little more undisciplined than last time, but I think this is a byproduct of 2 things. 3 things, I would say. I think the offensive line improved. We made some good moves in free agency in the offseason. 2, Josh Jacobs establishing a solid run game. And then 3, Derek Carr and company kind of getting used to the Gruden way, the Gruden offensive scheme. As far as the defense, there was improvements. This one kind of sticks out to me, the pass defense, and we've been kind of seeing this as far as a lot of the young talent. I think that was probably the downfall of Paul Guenther. I don't think he was a very good coach as far as being able to coach up the young talent, especially in the secondary, and we'll talk about that obviously in the next video in the 2020 season. But there was improvement overall, so that's good there. As far as special teams, couple things. The punt return went down. We had a real good punt return the season before with Dwayne Harris, but he got hurt, so that kind of went down. I think that was part of it. Improved the punting. Daniel Carlson with field goals, really bad. I'm surprised he was still with the team after this, and kick returns about the same. Now, while we have seen year-over-year improvement in the team, both in wins and some stats, I'm seeing some disturbing things as far as looking at the micro level quarter to quarter here. One of the things here is our delta in the second half. It was kind of back and forth in 2018, but this is a steady regression here. And especially in the second half here, we had a more favorable schedule as far as opponents in 2019 versus 18. And especially in the second half of the season, we only played two teams that ended up over 500. That was the Titans and the Chiefs, and we got blown out by both of them. And we only finished with a 3-5 record in the back half of this season. And this was capped in an embarrassing finale home loss against the Jags. And I'm sure you and the nation remember that game. We had the 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, kind of pissed it away, and Gruden, the team, got booed off the field afterwards. That was their home finale before moving on to Vegas. It was an embarrassing loss. And it just kind of seems to me that it's a coaching kind of an attitude that the Raiders don't have. They don't have the killer instinct. The games either are getting blown out, and that's it, or they're kind of close at halftime, and it goes either way, or the Raiders get a decent lead in the halftime and then let the other team come back and they either win or lose a close game. Their largest margin of victory in 2019 was only 8 points. That was week 1 against Denver. So I think while there has been improvement here in his second year, Jon, I think really, and I talked about that in some of my 2020 game review videos, he really needs to be able to make better adjustments and improve in the second half. So how do you think Jon and the team did in his second year? I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Put your comments below. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and supporting this channel, and as always, go Raiders.